So I'm recording as well. So we're all recording now. So that is good. So a very good morning and good evening to all of you. This is our monthly Achi Pure Vision practice group. Today I am doing this from New York City. So there might be some sounds from outside that might get loud or not, but it's Sunday morning. Maybe most people are still asleep. But very happy to see everyone. This month we have to move around our meeting time. But just to remind everyone, from next month onwards, from the month of June, we will be meeting the third Sunday of each month, the third Sunday. Because I recently started a series on the Bodhicayavatara, Shantideva's Bodhicayavatara, and that meets every Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday. So we can no longer do this class on a Saturday. So we have to move this class, and we've decided with James that we're going to move this class to the third Sunday of each month. Yeah, so please try to remember that. And then also try to remember that we are using the same Zoom room for our Achi series. So if you can write it down somewhere, put it on your fridge, on a magnet, tattoo it on your arm maybe, as a souvenir from your Achi course, you know. Even after this course is over, we will use the same Zoom room every time, every month we meet. So let us begin first by chanting the often used opening recitation for aspiration bodhicitta and action bodhicitta. And these words are the words of Kyopa Jigten Sumgön, the founder of Drigong Kagyu. Aspiration and action bodhicitta, these two aspects completely cover the entire path of training. Without aspiration and action bodhicitta, then it is very easily our practices, and especially Vajrayana practices, can turn into, at best, it turns into kind of kids playing magical play, like fanciful thinking. Or at worst, it becomes black magic. So first of all, bodhicitta has the relative aspect and the ultimate aspect. The relative aspect of bodhicitta can be summarized with love and compassion. Cultivating love and compassion. The ultimate aspect of bodhicitta can be summarized by cultivating the wisdom of selflessness. The relationship between relative and ultimate is not two things, relative here, ultimate here. The relationship between relative and ultimate bodhicitta is two sides of the same coin, two sides of the same hand. Meaning you cannot have this side of the hand without this side of the hand. And you cannot have this side of the hand without this side of the hand. So the relationship between relative and ultimate bodhicitta is not lower, higher. Don't misunderstand, the words might suggest as if relative is lower, ultimate is higher. But no, they are two sides of the same hand. That's the relationship between relative and ultimate. So for it to be bodhicitta, then it always have to have, from one side, love and compassion, from the other side, the wisdom of selflessness. Then specifically in cultivating aspiration bodhicitta, there we are saying, due to, motivated by, pushed by the power of love and compassion, without boundaries, without limits, I now make the resolve to achieve Buddhahood for the benefit of beings. First part, love and compassion. Second part, making the resolve to become Buddha, wisdom. So you can see how even in the aspiration bodhicitta prayer, this notion of the two sides of bodhicitta, love and compassion on one side, wisdom on the other side, is put together. Aspiration bodhicitta is making the vow, making the resolve to achieve the state of Buddha for the benefit of beings. Action bodhicitta is when we actually implement the vow, carry out the vow. So Shantideva in Bodhicayavatara says, it's making expressing the desire to go and now actually going. Lord Atisha offers a slightly different perspective on this. He says that aspiration bodhicitta is a commitment to the result. Because in aspiration bodhicitta, you say, I want to arrive at the state of Buddha so that I can help put all beings in the state of Buddha as well. So that's a commitment to the result. And action bodhicitta is a commitment to the cause, meaning it's a commitment to the causes of Buddhahood. What are the causes of Buddhahood? Practicing the 6 perfections, the 6 paramitas. So therefore, it is really important, for us to know these things, Just going through the motions, just chanting, just visualizing, is not going to bring about the result if we don't have understanding. If we don't know what we're supposed to aim for. So now the aspiration and the action bodhicitta recitations. Dolo dawa jebe dra no par jebe ge tarba dan tam je gembe bardu jobra jeba tam je ge su jebe ma nang ka da nyambe sen jen tam je dewa dan den dung ya dang de ne de la na me ba yang da bra so pe chang ju ren po je Dobra ja na la dawa jebe da no bar jebe ge tarba dan tam je gembe bardu jobra jeba tam je ge su jebe ma nanga dang nyambe sen jen tam je dewa dan den dung ya dang dre ne do la na me pa yang da bar so be chang ju ren bu je Dobra ja da la dawa jebe da no bar jebe ge tarba dan tam je gembe bardu jobra jeba tam je ge so jebe ma nang ka dang nyam pe sen jen tam je dewa dan den dung ya dan zhe ne zhe la na me pa ya la pra zo be chan ju rin po je Tobra de je de sama ge ge bar de longa yesum ge wa la go ma je bar de longa yesum ge wa la go de re ne sun de ne ma sam ta sam ge bar de longa yesum ge wa la go. Next, we do the refuge recitation, and this refuge prayer was composed by Lord Atisha. After the refuge prayer, we do the four immeasurables, which is taken from the words of the Buddha in various sutras and tantras. Even though we have different titles for each of these four opening recitations, if you really look at the content, they are all about bodhicitta. Sanje chodan soji chonam la chanchu bardu dani kyabzu je dhage jinso gebe sonang ke drola penchir sanje rubra shu sanje chodan soji chonam la chanchu bardu dani kyabzu je dhage jinso gebe sonang ke Rola penjir sanje drubra shu sanje chodan sogi chonam la changchu bardu dagni kyabzu chi dagi jinsu gibe sonang ki rola penjir sanje drubra shu manang kadan nyampe senje tamje dewa dang dewe gyundan dempra gyurje dunya dang dunya gi gyudang dewa gyurje dunya mepe dewa dang me zhewa gyurji niring chadang nidang zhewe tangyang la nebra gyurji manang kadang nyampe senjen tamje dewa dang dewe gindan dembra gyurji dungyao da Dungyao gi gyudan zhewa gyurji dungyao mepe dewa dangmi zhewa gyurji niring chadang nidang zhewe tangyong la nebra gyurji manang kadang nyampe senchen tamche dewa dang dewe gindan dembra gyurji dungyao dang dungyao gi gyudan zhewa gyurji Dungyao mepe dewa dhammi zhewa gyurji niring chadang nidang zhewe tangyong la nebra gyurji. Now we turn to the Achi sadhana. So this sadhana has many different sections. Last time we met, we covered the first part of the idam section. But as always, we will begin with doing the practice together right from the start. So we're going to start on page 1 with the ngondro of refuge and bodhicitta, followed by the ngondro, the foundational practice of generating bodhicitta, followed by the ngondro of Vajrasattva meditation and recitation, and then the ngondro of mandala offering. So in the case of this Achi sadhana, these 4 are given as its ngondro, its foundational, its preliminary practice. Jidar lume kyamne gunjo su nang tar jugu longu jugu sum sangwa tsalong tikle changju se ngowo dungi dharma tare ma changju bardu midra gyabzu jidar lume kyamne Kunju sum nangtar jugu longu jugu sum Tsangwa tsalong tikle changju sem Ngowo dungi dharma tare ma Changju bardu mira gyabzu je Jidara lume gyabne kunju sum Nangtar jugu longu jugu zum Tsangwa tsalong tikle changju sem Ngowo dongi dharma tare ma Changju bardu midra gyabzu ju. Next is generating bodhicitta. 주수 마루 고르웨 난 규말 겸신 롱벨 람고웨 로남 가게 네레 드지르 차당 가둔 냠가 지중루 미지 제메 시예 셈게노 나와 주구도웨 조수 마도 고르웨 난 규말 겸신 롱벨 람고웨 로남 가게 네레 드지르 차당 가둔 냠가 지중루 미지 제메 시예 셈게노 호에나와 주수 마루 고르웨 난 규말 겸신 롱페 람고웨 도남 가게 네레 드지르 차당 가둔 냠가 지룽도 미직 제메 시이 셈게도 Next is the Vajrasattva purification meditation. Jibo lama durje sembeni yabyum nyumzu pekyo tamki shu kurse tome nesa dikdrim kun gosun ramgu nungyo jimbo sha jije megi dakza nangwa zo Bhadrasado Om 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 Bhadrasado 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 Om 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 Bhadrasado Next is mandala offering. Rum jidar nang wa no ju ge zhu zo nang dar do je zing zhu sha ta ru sang wa de tong ga shi me jung ro ju yu ni me rang rin zao sha wa lo yi lang ne men de di bu lo rum jidar nang wa no ju ge zhu zo nang dar do je zing du da sha zha ru sang wa de dong ga shi me jung ro ju yu ni me rang ri cao sha wa lo yi lang ne men de di bu lo rum ji dar nang wa no ju ge zhu zo nang dar do je zin zhu sha zha ru sang wa de tong ga shi me jung ro ju yu ni me rang re xiao sa wa lo ye lang ne men de di bu lo. I want to point out and remind you that these four, what's called the uncommon wondro, is to be supported by the four common wondro. And the four common wondros are the four turning of the mind. So the first turning of the mind, or the first topic that can turn our mind away from distraction, is the fact that we have obtained a precious human life with all the freedoms and endowments. So that is the support for genuinely going for refuge. Once we recognize how amazing it is that we now have this precious human life, then we should direct our attention to the three jewels for guidance so that we ourselves can become the three jewels. Second, reflecting on impermanence, the second thought that turns the mind from distractions. So now, even though we have this precious human life, we should not forget that this can be easily lost, like a dewdrop on a blade of grass. It's as fragile as that. And therefore, seeing that this is our condition, seeing that this is the condition of all mother sentient beings, then it becomes a support for us to genuinely cultivate bodhicitta, which is the second wondro in this practice. The third common wondro, the third turning of the mind, is to contemplate, to understand deeply cause and effect. How unskillful negative causes bring about suffering, skillful positive causes bring about happiness. And so that is then the basis which then encourages us or helps us see the necessity of doing Vajrasattva purification, so that all the negative karma, negative imprints, all of those unskillful things can be cleared. So the third common ngondro supporting the third uncommon ngondro, which in this practice is Vajrasattva. Then the fourth common ngondro is to recognize clearly in all six realms of confused existence, whether in the very pleasant, pleasurable God realms, down to the horrible, terrible hell realms, in none of these six realms of existence, whatever pleasure we say is possible, whatever happiness we say is possible, right? All of that are temporary, are unreliable. So instead of grasping onto those things, we offer them. And now we offer them as a mandala offering to those who have been freed from confused existence. So that's how then it becomes the recognizing the unsatisfactory nature, the suffering nature of the six realms, and whatever superficial happiness, pleasure, all of that, we see them for what they are, and then we offer them. We no longer are fixated and attached to them. We offer them to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And not only that, here actually it says we also offer any meditative experiences we have, any realizations we have, we offer them to the three jewels. So that's the fourth common ngondro supporting the fourth uncommon ngondro. Now with these four ngondros, we enter the first main practice of this cycle, which is the most secret sadhana of the Guru. So now in a very unique way, Achi is arising in the form that is of the Guru. And here the form of the Guru is basically the form of the perfection of wisdom, Prajna Paramita. So Achi's innermost nature is recognized as nothing other than the perfection of wisdom, Prajna Paramita. this, as I said before, is a little unusual. That because ordinarily, right, Achi is recognized as a Dharmapala. So then how you practice Dharmapala practices, how you relate to the Dharmapala in a Dharmapala, a Dharma protective practice, and there are certain ways of doing it and all of that. So generally Achi is a Dharmapala. But in this particular cycle, in this Dharma, which was revealed less than 100 years ago, Achi has a guru aspect, have a yidam aspect, has a dakini aspect, and then has a dharmapala aspect, right? So this is unique. And as I said before, my style, I'm not saying you have to follow me, I'm just offering you one way of kind of relating to this is that my style is generally kind of, you could say, a little conservative when it comes to these things. Which is then, what does that mean? That means I feel that we should not talk too much to people who don't have this practice. That, oh, I have an Achi practice where Achi is the guru, and Achi is the idam, and Achi is the dakini. That will just, for people who are unfamiliar with Achi, it will just kind of create like a lot of weird ideas, if they don't know anything about Vajrayana, then it's one kind of weird ideas they will have. If they know something about Vajrayana, they will have also some other weird ideas, wrong ideas. If they know a lot about Vajrayana, but they know nothing about Achi, they have no confidence in Achi, then they might even think, oh, this is some, really strange Drigunkagyu things, So it's unnecessary, I feel, to talk so much about the unique nature of this practice with people who don't share with you confidence in this practice. So that's why sometimes Vajrayana is also called secret teachings. That means, you don't blah, 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 and out openly to everyone. Not because you don't like people, but in fact, you want to protect them from creating problems for themselves, creating problems for others out of ignorance with regards to these practices. Especially for those of us who practice Gyopa Jigten Sumgön's teachings, then you don't need to even think or wonder, is Achi helping me? Is Achi protecting me? Because it's her vow. It's her vow to protect to whatever degree she can, In the end, when our karma, when strong karma comes, even Buddha Shakyamuni and all the Buddhas of the 10 directions, cannot block very strong negative karma, much less Achi, right? But to whatever degree she can, she said, I will protect those who practice Gyopa Jigten Sumgön's teachings. So if you really know how, then you don't have to chase after the Dharmapala. You don't have to, make fancy offerings to try to bribe the Dharma protector to be on your side. That will be relating to worldly gods. With worldly gods, you kind of bargain with them. I give you this, you give me this. I give you this, you give me this. I offer you this, you do this for me. But don't relate, to Achi in this way. So in a way, you can say that this cycle of sadhana, this dharma, was revealed for us to deepen our understanding of who Achi is, so that we don't relate to her in that way. Because a lot of times, Dharmapala practice are written in such a way that seems like the Dharmapala is your servant. Oh, I give you this, you do this, do this, do this, do this. Don't forget you promised to do this, do this, do this, do this. In a lot of Dharmapala practices, the language is like this. Then it's easy to kind of think, oh, in this case, Achi is like this. She's like a servant. So here we get to see, actually, Achi's nature is inseparable from the mother of all Buddhas, past, present, and future, the perfection of wisdom, Bhagya Paramita. Then here we have to deepen our understanding and say, oh, Achi is in fact the nature of our Guru's mind, the nature of the mind of all Buddhas, and the nature of my own mind, and the nature of the mind of all sentient beings, inseparable. This is the kind of, in essence, when we practice the most secret sadhana of the Guru, this is the most secret, this is the secretest secret that we have to realize, which is nature of our mind, nature of Achi's mind, nature of sentient beings' mind. They are all the mother of all Buddhas, the perfection of wisdom. Okay, now we start the practice of Achi as Guru. Randu nam kara sajir kiwe lo pema dawa tsebe den ten du chugu yum jen yin chu chu gi dun kara se dang den chen sun yin la zi chu du na cu che kim tam gi shu Chani nyamsha serjin buddhi nam takur lama idam sangye dang changsem chokyon so nam chum sok tar shukbar dhalu jevar tuje ne chase zeme kunzan judrin tar Rabdru jobe zogi jobarji gema gongshe maji rinpoche dala gyamne gyoshe maji na jewa jimbo togi gongzola Kunzan dome gyasa mazimbar maye tuge lone mardunchi nyamda milangandu yinyarung gula gede menga tsuduzo Namo dharma dhare mahamuda siddhi bhalahum Dharma Mahamuda Siddhi Bhalahu Namo Dhamma Dare 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 Mahamuda Siddhi Bhalahu Namo Dharma Dare Mahamuda Siddhi Bhalahu Namo Dhamma 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 Dare Mahamudra 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 Siddhi Bhalahu Namo Dhammadare Mahamudra Siddhi Balaho. 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 Namo Dhammadare Mahamudra Siddhi. Namo Dhammadare Mahamudra Siddhi Balaho. 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 Now, the next section of the Guru practice is to receive empowerment through the rays of light coming from Achi Paramita, dissolving into our three places, forehead, throat, and heart. Then completely Achi Paramita dissolve and dissolve into yourself. You and Achi becomes inseparable. So Tabe Maji Guzum Ne Oze Trude Rangi Nesum Ting Guzum Trida Guzum Sabun Maji Oju Rangdang Yerme Guru. And now arising again as Achi, Paramita. So now you can think of yourself as Paramita. And then in the state of being Paramita, we do the dedication for this section of the practice. Drupa durje chanchen da beden dile naro so jinla gyu ju gyu ma je pa je ju bela mata shi dokshu tashi gang shi de jen ju gi ku pame yon te ren jen gyo zen ji ju ju ji de ma lu kyabze pa gompo pa mo drube dashi shu o min ne chu de go na pa za we lama rinpo je ka ku zen dan pe je pyo bar shing sung te jen ju gi nga ro do tu do pe mi gyo do je chang pa san je de yi zha shi shu tong ma bar dang ta ge shi sa shi zhu zhe du ma je du zi da bu ren bu je dam chu de yi zha shi shu lao pa sum ji gyu jiang xin mo gu tar jin to bar den Chirmi dopa sogi ju gendun dube trashi shu. So now we go to the next main section, which is the inner sadhana of the idam. So now Achi is practiced as idam. And the form of Achi as idam here is basically the form of Vajakilaya. There are two parts to this. So there is the basic idam part, where Achi is practiced as Vajakilaya idam. Then under this idam section, there is a section called activating the activities of idam Achi. Then there a special form of Kila deity in a female form is emanated. So this is the basic structure of the idam section. So last time we met, I explained the main part of the idam. And also, it is good to do more of the main part of the idam to really stabilize the confidence that you are the idam, and Achi, you, Achi, is the idam, this Kilaya deity, and to really stabilize your conviction, your confidence that you are Buddha. Because without this kind of clear, stable divine pride, sometimes it's called that. Without this clear, stable divine pride, again, if we are too eager to go into the activity of liberating and things like that, which is part of this, then you can easily kind of go the wrong direction. So first, let's do the main part of the Idam practice. Gile Gilaya Sarva Ben Bang Hong Pe Banza Gile Gilaya Sarva Ben Bam Hong Pen Banza Gile Gilaya Sarva Ben Bang Hong Pe Banza Gile Gilaya Sarva Ben Bang Hong Pe Bajra 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 Gile Gilaya Sarva Ben Bang Hong Pe Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. Om Bajra Kile Kilaya Sarva Bing Nembang Hong Pe. So frequently, when Achi is practiced as Dharmapala, meaning outside the context of this Dharma practice, in all the other Achi practices, whenever the idam is involved, usually the practitioner has to visualize themselves as idam before they invite the Dharmapala to come, invite Achi to come and receive the offering and the praise and the mantra recitation. Then the idam that the practitioner should visualize themselves at is usually Vajavarahi. But here, the idam is Vajakilaya. So I believe there are some special interdependence involved here as to why the idam is Vajakilaya rather than the more common idam for Achi practice, which is Vajavarahi. Now, what I'm going to tell you is not explicitly stated anywhere, but you can look at the kind of circumstance in which this terma was revealed. Then you can have some understanding why Vajakilaya is the deity, the idam in this practice. So the person who received this dharma was the previous Trisap Rinpoche. The previous Trisap Rinpoche, before he became Trisap, Trisap means regent. So before he became Trisap, first, of course, he was recognized as a Tuku, which is the Gyabra Tuku. So the Gyabra Tuku lineage, their main monastery is this monastery called Yangriga. Yangriga monastery is the second most important Drigung Kagyu monastery in Drigung Kagyu. The most important Drigung Kagyu monastery was, of course, the monastery founded by Kyopa Jiten Sumgun called Drigung Changchupling or Drigung Tu, which is the main monastery in Drigung. Then the second most important monastery was Yangriga. Yangriga was founded by the 17th throne holder of Drigung Kagyu, Gyawang Rinchen Punso. Then the Gyabra Tuku lineage is part of Yangriga monastery. So when the previous Chesang and Chungsang Rinpoche passed away, the previous Chesang Rinpoche, Kyabgon Chesang Rinpoche, was Kyabgon Shibe Lodro. So when both the Kyabgon Chesang and Kyabgon Chungsang passed away, then the person that led Drigung Kagyu was the previous Gyabra. So therefore he was called Trisap Gyabra, which means the regent Gyabra Rinpoche. So the previous Trisap Gyabra was the one who received this dharma, rediscovered this dharma. The timing of the receiving of this dharma, it basically happened at a time where Tibet was facing a lot of difficulties and chaos. So it is said that we know that Trisab Gyabra had gone to Lhasa during that time in order to meet Dunjum Rinpoche, the previous Dunjum Rinpoche. So Dunjum Rinpoche had come from, I think, Pemako to Lhasa and was staying in Lhasa. And so then Trisab Gyabra went to Lhasa to receive the Dujum Tersa empowerments and transmissions from the previous Dunjum Rinpoche. Then after he received all those transmissions, then he came back to Drigung. Then he went into retreat in order to, this is how it used to be, after you receive some teachings, after you receive some major transmission, serious practitioners will go into retreat for a period of time in order for all the transmissions, the blessings to kind of stabilize. And so Trisab Rinpoche went into retreat and did the Dujom Tersa practices that he received. And so I believe, it's not explicitly stated, I believe that he was probably practicing the Dujom Vajakilaya. Vajakilaya is a major idam in the Dujom Tersa. So then he must have been practicing the Dujum Tersa Vajakilaya. Then in that context, it is said that during that retreat was when this dharma came to him. So there is some special interdependence with Vajakilaya, with Dujum Tersa, with the previous Dunjum Rinpoche in the discovery of this dharma. So our Chinese interpreter, my friend Seng Yao, so this is very nice connection here because Seng Yao is a Dujum Tersa practitioner His root guru is the grandson of the previous Tunjung Rinpoche, Garab Dorje Rinpoche. So Seng Yao very kindly agreed to translate for this series. So this is a nice connection. Then also, so this is the most, I think, recent interdependence. Then if we look back into history, when Achi herself was alive as the great-grandmother of Kyopa Jigten Sumgan, right? Then we know that according to Kyopa Rinpoche's biography, his main biography, written by his closest disciple, Sherab Jungne, Sherab Jungne wrote a biography of Kyopa Jigten Sumgyal. In that biography, he says that Kyopa Rinpoche's great-grandmother, Achi, lived during the time of King Langdharma. Or before, or at least before Langdharma. So Langdharma infamously was the Tibetan king who set about to destroy Buddhism. So this is after Guru Rinpoche has come and all the 25 great disciples of Guru Rinpoche, Yeshe Sogyal, the Dharma king Trisong Detsen. So in between the time of Guru Rinpoche and his activities in Tibet, and before the destruction of Buddhism under the hands of King Langdharma, Achi was alive during that time. So from there we know that then Achi's own practice must have been what we now call Nyingma. Now, of course, at that time there's no name like this called Nyingma, because Nyingma just means like ancient. So when people were living at that time, they didn't think, oh, we are in the ancient time, right? This name Nyingma came later, in like the 12th century. Just like we say, you know, during the so-called First World War, nobody went around saying, oh, this is the First World War, this is the First World War, right? Only after you have the Second World War, then people say, oh, that was the First World War. So likewise, during that time, when Achi was alive, she was probably practicing the Dharma that came to India through the efforts of Guru Rinpoche, with Mala Mitra, and some of these early Indian masters that came to Tibet. And therefore, with what we today would identify as Nyingma. So, Achi herself must have practiced this Idam Vajakilaya, because that is one of the important idams of this early transmission of Buddhism. What we now call Nyingma. Then we also learned from this same biography that when Kyoba Rinpoche was a teenager, he also practiced Vajakilaya. He received what's known as the 3 cycles of Vajakilaya teachings and practices from his uncle, I think, called Kempo Dharma. Kempo Dharma, his uncle, gave him this practice, and it said that he mostly focused on Vajakilaya as a teenager, and his practice of Vajakilaya gave him the ability to heal people. So he was quite known in his local area as a skilled practitioner of Vajakilaya. People would come and ask him questions, and he would clarify, the questions related to Vajakilaya practice. And then he himself is said to have obtained the power to heal people through his Vajakilaya practice. So that's another kind of set of interdependencies that I think why here Achi in this dharma, the idam is Vajakilaya. Okay, so now let's look at the activity section of the idam. So basically, two activities are here. One is called the activity of liberating, and one is called the activity of repelling, turning away, repelling, turn back. Again, if we want to have, some kind of effect, if these if these activities in general is to produce some kind of effect, then we really need to stabilize our conviction that we are the idam. So as Trisat Rinpoche has said, like our current Trisat Rinpoche, he says, for us, this section of the activity of liberating, he says, it's very important we don't think, literally, oh, we are doing these things. He says, we don't have the ability. And not only that, this should not become like accidentally feeding, our anger, our aggression. Because what is liberating? Liberating can also mean kill. sometimes you can say it's a polite way of saying kill. Or a coded way, a secret way of saying kill. Maybe like gangster mafia talk, you know. You can say, hey, go free the guy, right? Go liberate the guy. So in Vajrayana texts, there are these kinds of secret language, secret code. But the ultimate secret here is, what are we killing? We are killing our own self-grasping. We are freeing our own self-grasping. That is what we need to kill. That is what we need to liberate. How do we kill? How do we liberate? Through relinquishing self-grasping. How can we relinquish self-grasping? Through having cultivated wisdom. What are the necessary conditions for wisdom, true wisdom, to arise? Having cultivated love and compassion. So in one of the Vajrakilaya root tantra, it says, you know, killing is not killing. Right? Killing is transforming the 5 aggregates into the 5 Buddha families. How do we transform the 5 aggregates into the 5 Buddha families? You don't do it in a Vajrayana lab. You do it by realizing the nature of the 5 aggregates are the 5 Buddha families. And in that way, we have liberated, we have freed, we have killed. So now I will chant this section of the activity of liberating, first in Tibetan, then we'll look at that line by line. As you listen to the chant, try to remember and to further strengthen your kind of confidence that you are Vajrakilaya. Yeah? tu dam kyu gu de le yang tu du to mo yin chu dharma tare ni shiva ning jing ang le ma yu shin du ga du le dra tum to mo gu ting na rab se tu ne jin sum shi ja ye nam cha dur je le la char Yasin damsi jungpo terwa lo cha yun nam cha burbu ging tam de dam nyan da ge je me so nam du dana go ber lam lu je parana chun jun ten na je ge tam gi shu zu mu tu le o ze ting na tser Kuchur shi zamge teng o kuntu to rang dre tro mo gange du nyam pa tu shin gang la me be tso tam je sha tra tso ki pung po gyu ne su che mar tu jing hup hup so ne kyan nam she dao pe shin du Dempor so ze wang so now dala tempor gyu. Okay, so the first part of this is, it says, by invoking the samaya of the enlightened mind stream, as a secondary emanation, there is Dharmatara, the wrathful queen of space. So the first thing is, from the main deity Vajakilaya, from the heart, a second emanation appears. And there, this emanation is the one that will carry out the activities. Then this second emanation, so yourself as Idam Vajakilaya, from Vajakilaya emanate a second Vajakilaya, and this Vajakilaya is female. So it says, without moving from the state of peaceful compassion. Peaceful here actually means nirvana. So without moving from the true compassion of the nirvana state, appears this enlightened form, the fierce and furious, wrathful goddess. And so a very wrathful form of Achi now emanates. Then she is described, yeah. She's described as dark blue in color. Her brow is furrowed, that means like that, like very angry and fierce, furrowed brow. And then she has 3 eyes. Right hand she holds a meteorite iron vajra, and left hand she holds a meteorite iron purba. So vajra in one hand, purba in the left hand. And she sits in this Dharmodaya, which is this triangle. This triangle is also a symbol of the source of all phenomena. So she sits there. That means from her all phenomena arises. Through interdependence, all phenomena arise from the Dharmodaya, and through interdependence, all phenomena also dissolve back into the Dharmodaya, that triangle. And that means she has mastered, the arising and the ceasing of all phenomena, both positive, negative. She is in control of all of that. Now, of course, she is you. Not the confused you, but the true nature you. And it says from her heart, brilliant dark blue rays of light shoot out everywhere in the four directions, four intermediate directions, above, below, in all directions. These rays of light and dark blue light shoot out from her heart. And from these rays of light, appear her army, so to say. Infinite number of goddesses in the same form, in the same aspect. They all appear. And what do they do? It says here, these wrathful goddesses, equal to the sense of the Ganga river, they all go out and grab the beings of obstructors and enemies, all the troublemakers. They're all gathered back by these goddesses and turned into, it says, heaps of flesh and blood. And these heaps of flesh and oceans of blood will be offered. Then the consciousness of these troublemakers, these beings, it says they are to be guided to the Pure Lands. Then whatever power, merit, and so on and so forth that these troublemakers might have, it says we absorb them in a way sort of like we steal them because they don't need it anymore, right? Their minds have been led to the Pure Lands, like sort of Powa way. Their minds have been led to the Pure Land. Then their bodies, which consists of flesh and blood, is already or will be, next part, will be offered. So then, their merit, if they have any, their longevity, if they have any, their power, if there's any, they don't need that anymore. Then that, it says, I absorb into myself. And now chant the next section, which is the offering of the flesh and the blood. Tungam parama drumu sonam ki damnyan rewe shatra palingta nyoje duzi bema rakta dang kashi judu dangden drumu zo tabki gebar shela zimparu kusung tuki damsi nyamchak sha. So this remainder flesh and blood is offered. Is offered to all the wrathful Achi Kilaya goddesses. What is flesh and blood? Flesh and blood, right now, literally, they are the basis of this body. And the body have the solid parts and the liquid parts, right? So flesh and blood. Right now, our flesh and blood is the basis for continuing this life. But this is confused samsaric life. Here, flesh and blood is symbolizing compassion is flesh, blood is wisdom. So the nature of beings and even the nature of troublemakers, samaya breakers, evil people, people who cause a lot of harm to others, even their bodies with their flesh and blood, we have to recognize that as that their nature is love and compassion. That's the flesh. And wisdom, that is the blood, and these two inseparable. So we are offering love and compassion and wisdom to the Kilaya, Achi Kilaya goddesses. And then in making this offering, then we say, I confess all the breaking of samayas, like especially the breaking of samaya on my part. Then the next main activity is called the activity of repelling, turning back. Dokpa in Tibetan. So I'll chant that now. Maya Duba Dromo Gelaya Damjo Ginar Sambe Neojola Samyen Jursu Mikada Judang Manye Kayo Zezo Barjenam Data Nidu Dope Trenle Zo. So at the end of this, when you say Data Nidu Dope Trenle Zo, so you should clap. That's the ritual gesture for turning back, repelling. So here it says, wrathful Kilaya goddesses, immediately perform the activities to turn back evil intent, violence, slander, ridicule, unfounded accusations, and obstacles to the life force. Turn this all back. Make them go. Return to wherever they came from. Then at the very end, there is what's known as the requesting these wrathful Kilaya Achis to complete the 4 activities. So as I said, this is the activity section. 2 main activities are specified. Then this last part is just all the other activities summarized into the 4 usual activities, right? The activity to pacify all suffering, the activity to increase all the positive conditions for our Dharma practice, magnetize, bring in all the conducive conditions. Let us have control over those conducive conditions. And finally, the 4th one is to destroy. Destroy all, here it says, enemies, obstructors, and evil sorcerers. We should know that these are not talking about people out there. These are talking about our own afflictive emotions and distractions. Nedun shidan sebel zonam ge moba shiye wangdu duwa dan drage jeme punzom haraya. So there, in those 3 lines, basically, are the 4 Buddha activities. Then the dissolution stage, which I covered the last time we met. I explained that already. So now, today we don't have time. I'm not going to repeat that. If you can go back to the recording for last week, if you forgot how this is done, you can go refer to that teaching back there. Basically, all the thousands and millions of wrathful Kilaya goddesses, they all dissolve into the main Kilaya goddess. The main Kilaya goddess dissolves into the first Idam Kilaya, then that dissolves. That's the basic point here. Then yourself dissolve into the Hong syllable that was in the heart center. Then that Hong syllable dissolve. So nam kyan so mo ko la du so mo to ge hong ye la tem ne shak yu go ba go da te le ne na da tra we mi ming ing su ye la yang ke la ya yi guru guru. Then now, after the dissolution, then instantaneously appear again in the form of the Idam, Vajakilaya, with two arms. Then in the state of being Idam, we do this dedication. Gewa diye nerdu da idam la so tribgyurne drowa jigya malu pa deye sala go barshu Om nanse tamje durje shunu gu adada malu benza gile so hong to shardo Kumara Yedhu Horang Nanjang Ring Sangsum Trashi Shu. These auspicious blessings at the end reminds us that you have to see all forms as the form of Vajakilaya, Vajakumara, also called Vajakumara. All sounds are the speech of Vajakumara, and all thoughts, emotions, feelings, they arise as the enlightened mind, enlightened heart of Vajakilaya. There is an appendix, so to say. There is one other activity that is put at the end of the section that is called the rope sling. So this we won't cover today. Next time we meet, I'll say something about it. But this involves, having a sling, a nomadic sling. So. A sling with a rock. It tells you what kind of sling, and what kind of rock. And since we are not nomads, better not try to use this sling because we could, injure ourselves. Sometimes I joke, like people like to do Dharmapala practice, and then they like to Dharmapala practice in the prayer. It says, please destroy the obstacles, please liberate the obstacles, please get rid of the obstacles, please blah blah blah, right? And then sometimes you're like, oh wait, what if I am the obstacle? So you're asking the Dharmapala to like destroy you. So be careful. Sometimes we want something so much, not even like things that we are ashamed to talk about, like things that we know we should not want, but even some of the things that we want, and everyone says, oh yes, 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 that's good. Or even like a dharma project, I want. Then we do dharma pala practice, dum 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 dum, oh, lots of alcohol use, lot of milk pouring, this, that, burn this, burn that, dum 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 dum. And then we keep saying, oh, Dharmapala, remove obstacles, remove obstacles, remove obstacles, kill the obstacles, send them away, blah blah blah, dum 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 dum. But then whatever you are desiring is not happening, then you're like, oh my gosh, the Dharmapalas are not working, maybe I need, more high alcohol content. So people think like that, that I will use, and tom 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 tom. Then it's like, oh, maybe the alcohol quality not good enough. Maybe I will get XO, lots more and more hope, tom 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 tom. Then the more you tom tom tom, the less whatever you're desiring is going to happen. That is when you need to realize what the Dharmapala is telling you. What you are desiring is the obstacle. And so they're like, hey, we are working for you. Thank you for your offerings. But don't you get it? Yeah, what you want is precisely the obstacle that needs to be removed. Ah, yeah, dum 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 dum, got fired from your job, dum 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 dum, came home, husband has run off with someone else, dum 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 dum, microwave not working, leftover dinner cannot even warm up, then we think, oh, this Dharmapala is not working. Maybe it is working, When we forget that this is samsara, then the greatest kindness that the Dharmapalas can do is to remind us, hey, don't forget, this is samsara, you need to get out. they'll remind us, hey, have you forgotten, you're working on jailbreaking this samsara, but instead now you are spending your time, interior decorating your cell, your prison cell. Yeah, so today we end here. In case there's any questions, comments that is very, important to ask, please go ahead and ask, and I'll try my best to answer. If I don't know the answer, I will go look for the answer. Next time we meet, I'll report back. Let's see, I think there's a question in the chat. This time my computer is close to me. I can usually on Zoom I cannot see what is in the chat. So the question is, in the main practice I can visualize myself as 6 Vajakilaya and goddess form Vajakilaya emanate from my heart for the liberation activities. In my daily activities, can I visualize myself either as male or female form of Vajakilaya? Yeah, basically. That's basically. You should know that there is one explanation that says that even in the main visualizing of Vajakilaya is actually the goddess form. But myself, I tend to do what you just described. In the main idam, I visualize myself as the male Vajakilaya, and then for the activities, the female emanate. I just want you to know, all of you to know, there are different ways to explain that particular section. Then the main point, I think your question is, in the daily activities, when we're going around, not doing like repelling, not doing anything specific, what form of the idam should we keep in mind? There, I think is basically the basic form of Vajakilaya, if that is your idam. If your idam actually is Vajavarahi, Vajayogini, then Vajavarahi, Vajayogini. Then if your idam is Avalokiteshvara, then Avalokiteshvara. Then there is a question of like, is there possibility of harm arising if we don't do those activities with proper motivation and understanding? So yes, harm arising, yeah. Because if we practice anger and think that, oh, this is Buddha's teachings, then double layer harm. First harm is, of course, anger, whenever we encourage anger, it will harm you. Second harm, the the medicine for healing us is now turned into poison. So two levels of harm would arise, right? If we under the activity section, if we think, oh, this is about destroying our enemies, the guy that I don't like, the guy that did me wrong, I'm going to use this to destroy them and kill them and this and that, or this guy that is like preventing my dharma activities from working, I want to build a center, I want to build a stupa, and this person doesn't want to sell me the land, or want to charge me so much, so I'm going to destroy them. If you do that, of course there's harm, because you are now cultivating anger and cultivating aggression, right? Then on top of that, how are you cultivating aggression and anger? Using dharma methods. Oh, now you have poison dharma, you have turned dharma into poison, so of course there will be harm if we don't have the proper motivation and understanding. But I don't like you to think, I don't encourage you to think harm arising in a magic sense. Like these deities or whatever will come and get you and chase you down and hunt you down. I mean, in the traditional telling of the dangers, they talk about these things, but I think it reflects more the times and the culture. But we should not like be so literal, thinking, because I think there's too much magic that people are stuck with, in people, especially people who are attracted to Vajrayana. Don't encourage that kind of superstitious thinking. But there's a clear interdependence, of harm arising that doesn't need a magical explanation, supernatural explanation. Yeah, so thank you so much to especially the translators, the interpreters. They're doing hard work. I speak, then I, keep quiet. I rest, but they are constantly on, They have to listen, they have to translate, they have to listen, they have to translate. So we should not drag the session on too long because we don't want to kill them. So so we will end here today. And then thank you to all of you, especially if you're in Asia, you're staying up very late to attend this. So thank you for coming. So at the end, we will do a final dedication, which is the bodhicitta dedication. It says, excellent and precious bodhicitta, where it has not arisen, may it arise. Where it has arisen, may it not decline, but increase higher and higher. Changchu sem choren poje ma je ba nam je gyurji ge ba nyam ba me ba ya go ne gong du be war sho. One other point. So when we say, post meditation, post session, we should visualize ourselves as the idam deity. Don't take that so literally, as in you need to kind of think of yourself walking down the street with 6 arms, 4 arms with wings. It's a little bit inconvenient, going to do your shopping, with wings and many arms. When the teaching says, you arise again as the idam, it means, your confidence and conviction and your realization that in fact we are fundamentally Buddhists. That is what we need to keep. Then more importantly, and if we are Buddhists, how do we respond to things that happen throughout the day? How do we respond to excitement? How do we respond to threats? How do we respond to anger? How do we respond to bad traffic? How do we respond to bad news, to good news? That's more important. It's not whether you walk around thinking that you have 6 arms or 9 legs. That is just a method to remind us. If you are Buddha, what would Buddha do? Like these wristbands. Once upon a time, Christians, especially young Christians, they have this WWJD, meaning what would Jesus do? So basically ours is, what would Idam do? WWYD is what we need to. If you are Buddha, if you are Idam, how would you respond to this situation? How would you face this news? How would you respond to traffic jams, frustration, things working, things not working? That is the essence of what it means. Yeah. Okay, Tata. Goodbye.晚安.
Feels up the line.